announce that in the email that kind of set up the office hours. So this month, I'm going to talk about support services first. Next month, it might be something different. I think I'm actually going to kind of talk about training services in the future. So I'll spend a little bit of time talking about support services in the beginning. You're welcome to ask questions about support services. You can type those into the chat. And then once I'm kind of through this for the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to open it up just to general Q&A. So anything at all, you're welcome to kind of type into the chat. If you have questions about anything instructor related, any Canvas or instructor product or service, feel free to drop those into the chat. I'll also make sure that I think I have it pulled up here. I can share. I always have a form somewhere, a Q&A form that you're welcome to fill out in advance. So if there's ever a bigger question that maybe we need to do some homework on, or I can follow up with, I'll do that as well. I'll pass out that form so you guys can fill that out. And that'll be the form that I'll always do for every office hours. So if you don't have anything this month and you think of something in between now and the next time we meet, you're welcome to drop that into the form and I can follow up. If it's something that I can answer during the office hours, I'll make sure I document this is being recorded today. I'll document who's asking the question, what the question is, and I can follow up on that too as well. So I think hopefully I've got a chance to at least introduce myself to everybody that's on the call. But my name is Jonathan Bernos, in case anyone hasn't met or at least not in person or by Zoom call. But I'm the customer success manager for the Missouri region. And I live in Kansas City. I actually live on the Kansas side, which is kind of funny. I didn't get Kansas or any Kansas schools, even though I live in Kansas now. But I grew up on the Missouri side, so maybe that's why I got a chance to move into Missouri. So I don't live far, and I know a lot of the schools that are on the list or that I've kind of made contact with so far in Missouri. So which is why I'm so excited. I actually went to school at Southwest Missouri State University. I'm going to age myself. Back in the day, SMSU in Springfield, Missouri. It's now Missouri State University. They're not a Canvas customer, sadly, still on Blackboard like they were when I was there. Maybe someday, but a lot of the schools around the area I'm very familiar with in the Kansas City area, Springfield area, St. Louis, Columbia. So I've got a lot of history with all the schools. I'm going to start with support services real quickly. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm going to start with a theme every month, and then I'll open up to just general Q&A. I've picked support services as the very first theme for my office hours because I'm running into a lot of questions from different schools, maybe that aren't familiar with their level of support, or maybe how support might work if there's a process at their own institution on how they submit cases. So I wanted to kind of speak to that. I also want to talk about an escalation process. One of the most frustrating things I think for a school working with different instances over time is maybe that delay in support when you submit a case and kind of having to get stuck in this feedback loop where you get a response from support. Maybe they ask you for question, or they ask you some questions, and it requires you to respond to them, and then you get stuck back. The ball's in their court. You have to wait. Someone picks it up. Maybe they answer a question or two. Maybe they give you information, but they don't complete it. They're not done, and they send it back to you again. So you get this pickleball game. I'm a pickleball player, so I'm going to defer to that instead of tennis. And you end up spending a lot of extra time. That can be frustrating. So I'm going to talk about an escalation process today that you can use that will speed that up. So we'll talk about the levels of support real quickly. I'm going to talk about how you might access these support services, where you might find them in your instance, or how you can set them up. If they're not set up there currently, if what I say today, you're like, wait a minute, that we don't have that. Why don't we have that? We should. Definitely email me and let me know, and we can set up a call after the office hours today to meet and talk through that. We'll talk about how to escalate support cases. I'm going to show you, or just as a reminder, maybe for many of you, what a field administrator is and how they access what we call the field admin console. So we'll talk about console access. I'll send this out after the office hours today, so you have links to all the support documents that are out there on all this stuff. Case reporting, just in case you're not quite sure where you can pull that and where you can see how many cases maybe are getting submitted each month. And then knowledge base, we'll talk about what the KB is, or the knowledge base, and how that is basically a script or a blueprint for our support agents. So I'll cover those, 6 bullets today. This is really small, but it's linked. I'll open up a bigger picture of this. I'll also share this. This is just a real quick kind of a flashcard. One, what do you call it? One. It's a quick resource you can use to kind of it talks about when should you escalate something and maybe a pathway or process to follow for support escalation. So I'm going to go through a couple of those things. First of all, I want to talk about level of support. If you're not familiar with what your support level is, if you know you have support services, but you're not quite sure what you have, or if you do know what you have and it's just time since you reviewed it, I'm going to drop in a link here. This goes to just the instructor's support terms. This is in your contract. All support services are in contract. They start with standard and they work their way up from there. Standard support is that you all as an institution will provide your own help desk support for all Canvas issues. So that's what it means when it says, if we're looking just at the standard column, you're providing help desk contact administrators of the support services at your institution. They're field administrators, that's what we call them. There is a license that is given for an access point to our support team. Our support team supports your support team. Our support team with standard support will support your point of contact for your support team with that one access point. So that's what we're seeing right here, this number of admins. One, when can they access our support team? That point of contact or the administrator can access our Canvas support from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's local time, so central, and that's 5 days a week. And then you have an escalation point with that access. You can escalate any ticket to our Canvas support that works through our system and our ticketing system, and then we respond back to that point of contact or that license. So that's standard support. Everybody gets that just out of the gate, regardless. If you haven't used it and you want to know more about it, just let me know. I'm happy to follow up on just individual calls to kind of show you how do we use standard support if you're providing the help desk to your users, your faculty, your instructors. 24/7 steps up to the number of access points is 3 licenses. Most institutions will use a generic access point, meaning you might have John Smith and Betty Smith both have a license to access Canvas support. The third license, most institutions will use your institution at, or your institution IT at yourinstitution.com, meaning it's just a generic access point for IT or support services as your third license. That way, if John and Betty are out of the office on vacation, then anybody who has access to that third credential, that login, they can get into the support, the admin console and use support services if needed. So it's also a way to kind of not cheat the system, but to get more than 3 access points. If that third one allows, maybe if you have a team of 5 people that are working support cases or they're providing IT support or help desk support to your users, it gives all 5 of them an access to that third login. So that's one way to use that, though, as far as 3 licenses go. You can do that with 1 if you'd like to. The response time goes out or is much quicker on 24/7. You can see that your 3 access points have access 24/7, 365 days a year to our Canvas support, but you still, as the institution, are providing your help desk to all your faculty, your instructors, and your students. From there, we step up into the Tier 1 support, and there's really 2 levels of Tier 1 support. Tier 1 support can be to your faculty and instructors only, and that is that they can now access the support, our Canvas support agents, directly, so they don't have to contact your help desk or your institution's help desk or anyone there, the points, the field admins. They can contact Canvas support directly. And that's 24/7, 365 days. And then you can see your response time also goes down quite a bit too. It's a 1-hour targeted initial response for any email, web form, tickets, chat, or 5-minute targeted initial response for phone and chat. You also get a phone number that's available for faculty members to use. They can call Canvas support directly. They'll get an agent. So the levels definitely increase there when you look into Tier 1 support. And then additional Tier 1 support, institutions, some have Tier 1 support or Canvas support available for students and faculty. And that, again, the contact point is the same 24/7, 365. the target initial response, at TIR, which is one of the reporting statistics actually that you can access. Initial response time for web form email tickets, that's if they're submitting through the Canvas instance, is 5 minutes, or I'm sorry, 1 hour, and then 5 minutes is the target response time for phone and chat. Those go up during like your high busy seasons, like fall start, spring start for semesters. But we do bring in extra support staff to kind of help with that. So the last couple of years, it hasn't been too crazy during fall and spring start. So I just wanted to throw those out there. If it looks familiar, you're thinking, okay, yeah, that looks familiar. We have that. One thing I wanted to show, and I'm using a different school from outside of Missouri, but if you do have tier one support, if you're sure that you have it, one thing I would check, if it's been a long time since you've looked at it, go into your instance, check your help navigation. Tier one support, full tier one support will provide a phone number and a chat link for faculty and for students. This particular instance has tier one support for faculty only, so they're not providing Canvas support directly for their students. Their students still have to run through their help desk and then through their field admin. But if you do provide both students and faculty, you would actually have two numbers here. You would have two chat links. You would have two links for the phone number. You would have two different phone numbers. So if you don't have that in your instance and you're positive you have tier one support, just let me know, reach out to me, email me, and we can jump on a call. We can take a look at your services just to double check. Also, so you as a field admin with one of the licenses, you can use the links to submit cases just like everyone else does if you have tier one support. If you don't, if you just have standard support, you're still going to have a web form, and that's going to be the report a problem. So students, instructors can still submit report a problem, which is going to create a case. Your field admins will have access to that case. That gets redirected or can go back to your help desk. That's in addition to you may publish your own phone number for your help desk in the navigation. You can do that by customizing the menu down below. So if you wanted to modify, if you want to add additional resource links, you want to add additional training that's more internal for your institution, you can do that. If you customize your links, you're able to go in, you can see the students. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, they do have tier one support for both. So you can actually go in and modify these if you wanted. You can add your own phone number to your help desk if you wanted to put that in the navigation link so that when they see, if they're looking for help, they're going to be contacting you directly. You can see these are role-based, so they're actually, the students only see the student phone number. They're not going to see the faculty phone number. We can also modify phone trees. So when they call in, they have options to choose. That can be modified. They can make choices, and that's going to direct them to the right place. So. As a field admin, you also remember if you have one license for standard or if you have the 3 licenses for 24/7 and above, the field admin has a login access that takes them into the console. The console is where you're going to find your cases that have been submitted, either coming in from the Canvas instance or cases that have been submitted internally. You can manage those cases here. You have 2 avenues with the 24/7 tier 1 support where you can create a ticket manually. You can also contact support. There's a phone number listed here as well. And then your chat support is here in addition to that. If you are a field admin or you have access to a field admin license, I would definitely highly advise using the console to create tickets, to manage ticket workflow, to escalate. If you do it through the field admin console, and again, the access, I'll make sure I send that out so if you're not quite sure how to get in here. But the field admins actually have priority access. So if a field admin submits a case through the console, that will actually be serviced faster than submitting it through the instance, through the navigation links, to the help links. It's the same for the phone number. If a field admin calls or if they submit chat through the field admin console, they're moved up in priority. So if you definitely have something that's urgent, if you're experiencing some kind of an outage, something's not working the way that it's supposed to, I would definitely advise the escalation process should be start with the field admin console. Many instances I've run into field admins or just administrators who just email Canvas support. That will work, but you're actually lengthening the queue, kind of your place in line, because it takes longer for that queue to kind of go through, figure out where this case that was submitted by email, which school it should be associated with, and then getting it to a support agent takes a little bit longer. So I would definitely advise you, if you have access or if you know the point of contact at your institution that has access to the field admin console, definitely use that to create cases and to move cases or escalate cases, because you're going to cut through the line. The system recognizes where you're coming from as a field admin, and it gives you priority status to move those a bit quicker. So field admin console, definitely use this. This is also where you're going to find your reporting. Just the great, super quick, easy report that refreshes as you go into it. You want to see how are we using our support services. Within the field admin console, the licenses that have access to this, they all have access to the dashboard. If you click on the case dashboard, you're going to get a real quick summary of the last 30 days. You're going to be able to see what's driving cases. Where are cases coming from? Are they coming from Canvas issues, or are they non-Canvas issues? A lot of times we see people are having trouble logging into Canvas or logging into other systems. Maybe they even have trouble with LTIs in Canvas. It's not technically a Canvas issue, but support services are going to field it. And so you'll be able to see what's the case driver. Is it an LTI? In this case, they might have an LTI that's causing, creating more case flow. Or I can see gradebooks, actually the biggest driver for this particular instance, for this school. So I may follow up with them as a customer success manager and say, hey, let's take a look at your cases. Let's take a look at gradebook. What's causing the questions? Where are these coming from? And that might be something we address either through training, or we might provide some additional resources to kind of help cut down on those cases. You also can see where they're coming from. Is chat, phone, which one's higher? For a lot of institutions, it's going to be 50-50. But when you hit heavy case flow, maybe fall start, spring start, you might notice that people favor web chat a little bit, maybe because it's faster over the phone call. You'll also see who's fielding them, who's creating the cases. Is it faculty, or do you have students that are creating more cases? And that will kind of vary per institution. But if we know where it's coming from, we have more information, then we can kind of address it. We can provide more resources. We can look at training. We can figure out how to, down the road, cut down on the number of cases that are being created. And if we cut down on the number of cases, especially the how-to cases, the questions about like, how do I do this? If we knock those out through resources and training, then we shorten the line, or it's a much faster experience for those technical issues that do come up, like I push this button, it's not working. We want those to go to the front of the line. And in busy peak seasons like fall start, spring start, sometimes those the technical issues that come in, they get in line behind the issues like the questions of how do I find, where's my grade book? How do I find that? So we want those to kind of be separated out. We want to be able to service the support or the technical issues much faster. So that's what I focus on too. One part of the job, customer success, is to look at support services overall, just high level, and say, what can we do to improve? How can we service better cases using Canvas support? Or how can we help your help desk service those cases? If it's standard support, what can I do? What resources can I provide to help cut down on your workflow that's coming into you? So pointing that out to the dashboard. One other thing I want to point out here before I open it up is escalation. So there is escalation. I'll send this out because I think it's a really good reference point. It's just real simple. It's all on one slide. It's got additional links in here, but we talk about when should you escalate something. And then if we know, once we recognize that something should be escalated, is there a better pathway to follow that will make sure that it gets to a support agent quicker? Yes, for both of those. As far as urgency goes, if something's broken, if something's not working the way that you expect it to work, meaning I push a button and some type of workflow process doesn't occur, that needs to be escalated. So I would either, if you have above standard support, tier 1, 24/7, field admin needs to be contacted and they need to contact Canvas support. If it's standard service, still the field admin console, field admin administrator needs to contact Canvas support. They need to use the phone call. They need to use the web, the chat in the admin console to get a hold of a Canvas agent. Also, for some of those big issues that we know that an L1 support agent, for Canvas, we kind of have two tiers. And L1 is just the front line. They're going to take the how-to questions, the basic technical issues. The L2 level, just beyond them, are the ones that are going to troubleshoot, and they're going to work on some of the bigger issues. L2s are assigned cases, so they're actually you're going to maintain or keep the same L2 person or team, and they're going to work on the case until they resolve it. If we know that the issue is big enough that it needs to get to an L2, it needs to be escalated, there are a couple different steps that you want to follow to make sure that it gets to an L2 right away. And within this escalation, this level of urgency, what's an emergency versus what's really non-urgent. Most of us know, especially on the call today, they know what an urgent emergency is. This can be helpful too if you're training new people on support services or training your help desk. Within this, there's a ticket template, and this is what I would use. If we know that something needs to go to an L2, ask for it. That's the biggest thing I tell people with support services. In the case that you create, ask for an L2. If a lot of times an L1 that receives it, if the case says, hey, I'm an admin, I've been here for a while, I know what an emergency is, and this is one, I need an L2. If you ask for it on the initial submission, you're going to get an L2. They're going to, instead of coming back to you saying, hey, we have more questions for you, they're going to say, nah, we need to get this to an L2, so we're going to go ahead and move. So in this documentation, it talks about ticket template. What information should you include? If you include all the information that's here in this form or just in this template, the first time that it's submitted, you're going to run into a lot less back and forth in that feedback loop that sometimes we get stuck in. So it seems simple enough, but it's easy to forget. But a summary of the problem saying, this is what I'm facing, this is the problem, and then also include the expected outcome. So it's much easier for our support agents if you tell them what you're expecting from the case, from the workflow, from the button that you push. If you include that in the summary, this is what I'm experiencing, it's broken. This is what I'm expecting, it's not broken, more detail. You're going to have, there's a lot less of a chance for them to send it back to you. Also include screenshots, URLs to the problem, recordings. The more that you can include, the more of that stuff, the less likely it's going to get kicked back to you. And that's the most frustrating thing ever is if it's an emergency and you say, look, this is broken, it's an emergency, fix it. The support agent is going to go, I need more information. Where is it at? What browser are you using? Did you unplug it? Did you plug it back in? Some of the silly questions. They're going to kick the case back to you and ask those questions. When you submit it back with the answers, that's like getting in the back of the line again. So if you think about it, if you're at the DMV and you're there in line, that's like getting, they're saying, hey, you need to go out and you need to show, you need to have document proof of insurance. You have to go to the car, get it. You come back in, you have to get in the back of the line. Most places don't do that anymore, but that's kind of the system as far as receiving cases. That's kind of how it works. So if you don't want to go to the back of the line, and I don't want you to, follow the template, include as much information as possible. And also remember, ask for the escalation. Say, I want to talk to an L2. I need this to go to an L2 because this is broke. It's a big deal. Part of this template is how many people are affected. If you can put that information in there, if you can say, okay, this seems like a big problem, but we have 3,000 people that are affected. Every student that we have on campus is affected by this problem right now. I need an L2. We're not going to kick it back to you. They're going to move it to an L2 because they'll recognize, okay, this is 80% of their FTE. This is 80% of the students they have enrolled in Canvas are having this issue. We need to escalate this to an L2, or we need to get this to a higher level of support. So that's included in the template. I would definitely use that. And then also the links over to the right, we have really what should go to a CSM versus what to go to a support agent. If it's strategic, if it's we want to do this better, we want to make this process work better for us, it's going to be a customer success manager. If it's a question about how to turn on an LTI or how to get something integrated into Canvas, that's going to be a customer success manager. Everything else, if it's technical in nature, if it's about something that you have to push or a workflow or process or a button, and it doesn't work the way that it's supposed to, that's going to be support. So that's another thing too that'll cut down on time is if instead of sending it to a customer success manager, if you send it to me first, a lot of times you're going to hear me respond with create the case, copy me on the case, or when you create the case, you can also take the case number and then forward it to me, and then I'll help escalate it along. But do that first. Always create the case first, even if you're unsure. Create the case first. It'll give you a number. It generates the number, and then give the number to me, and I'll help. I can definitely help it skip the line. I can push it along. I can escalate, but I'll always start with the case number first. So if you're ever not sure, and I always tell everybody this too, always feel free to copy me on cases. Even if you're not unsure, if you just want me to get some visibility to be able to track it, even without even emailing me, you can just copy me on your CC inside the admin console. Every field admin has the ability to CC somebody. You can CC other faculty, you can CC students. I wouldn't recommend that. Or you can CC me as a customer success manager. Take my email address, drop it in there. It will notify me that you did that, and then I'm able to track the case. And I can give my input behind the scenes as well and kind of bump it along. So this also kind of talks about how to contact support. This is something we've already covered. It talks little tips and tricks, just a single little one sheet reference. So those are great to use. Use this sheet. But again, more information you can include, ask for the escalation, and then copy me or kind of the 3 key points on escalations. And that'll get you through the system much, much quicker. So if we're doing that, if we're using support services, if we know how to escalate, we have processes we're following, we know how we're offering it to our end users, our students, our faculty members, that cuts down on a lot of time, and it also helps us find the right resources and the right training, all the stuff that's included in your contract that I think over time we forget. My job is to make sure that we're using it. I want to get the maximum ROI, the maximum value out of what you already have in your contract. So the big part of what I'm doing in the first couple of months is I'm looking at all of your schools, all your instances. I'm looking at your contracts, and I'm going, all right, are they taking full advantage of everything they're supposed to have? And if not, then how can we increase that? How can we bring those resources to the table? That's what I'm doing now. So that's my for this month. My theme is support services. Again, you can ask questions about anything at all. But I wanted to focus on support services first, and then we'll look at training services over time. Those go hand in hand. If we can offer the right training resources, if we can give training out there to faculty members, even to students, if there's resources available, it cuts down on support issues, it cuts down on tickets being created, it cuts down on your case workflow as a help desk, and it cuts down on the Canvas on the support side as well too. So, and then overall, we look at increasing adoption, and we look at increasing just engagement within the Canvas instance. And then one of the months here coming up, we'll also look at data and analytics. We'll talk about the reports you have available. There's lots of great stuff on the roadmap coming for reports that'll give you access to more data and look at usage inside of Canvas. That's going to be a big focus of mine as well. Quarterly is looking at your data and looking at ways to kind of increase engagement, increase usage. So that's the first part of the office hours. I got 30 minutes left. I went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but hopefully this is good information. Again, I'll send this out to everyone that was on the office hours today. The call's being recorded. I'll take the, I do have links in here to the community documentation for as far as how do you access the console. There's documentation in the instructor community about how to do that. I also have links in here to the escalation process. I have links in here to the level of support, the knowledge base, the KBs. This is a blueprint for our support agents to provide service to your faculty, instructors, and students, depending on the level of support that you have. So this talks a little bit about how to access, how to edit, modify. You can put in your own verbiage. If you want our support agents to be representing your school, you can put that in the KB. If you'd rather them say, hey, my name's so-and-so, and I'm representing or on behalf of institution or the school name, they can do that. If definitely have tier 1 support services and we're doing all of your support, if you want us to represent you, then you definitely can do that. And the end user just sees it as they're contacting your school or contacting your help desk. They don't know the difference between Canvas support or the support you're providing. So, but KBs are a great way to do that. This is a way to create kind of a script, a blueprint. What process do our support agents follow when they're servicing your cases? If you want to make that more of a personal experience, we can do that. Now, you use a KB to do that. The KB kind of helps us make that personalized experience for every end user or for every faculty member or instructor. We can provide training resources. That's another great way to, if you have tier 1 service, using a KB to say, okay, this particular problem, we look back at that the report earlier, we notice there's a high level of cases coming in for gradebook. Well, maybe we create a KB for gradebook, and then any case that comes in now that the agent highlights, okay, this is a gradebook case. Here are the training resources that this support agent from Canvas provides your instructor. Hey, this is where you find this, or hey, this is the information where you can solve this problem or this question. And then in the future, hopefully we cut down on the number of cases. But our support agents can be that reference, so they can provide that information as well. Awesome. So I'm going to pause or stop sharing for a second, open up the last 30 minutes here of the call for any questions. You're welcome to jump in. You can unmute or you can just type them into the chat box. If you have any questions at all about anything Canvas, Instructure, service, product, support, anything at all, go for it.